Right, should we wait? We should just get started. Try and bust through really quickly. I rewrote the whole thing on the way down because I wanted to basically humiliate Glenn. But Glenn's not here now, so it's based around, again, it's like, I don't think people pay much attention to kind of the environment and the atmosphere they kind of create in the gym to kind of improve. People look at, most people don't even consider how they teach, to be quite honest. But like the way I was going to explain to you guys the other month with the kind of ecological approach and everything, you need to have like people understanding, you have to have the environment right for it to work quite well. Right. Again, this is all really kind of, it's not polished or anything, it's just literally right on the way down in the car. We talked briefly on like psychological safety last time. It's kind of quite a buzzword at the minute, especially the academics and things. Why it's relevant, because again, like when people are learning, obviously, that kind of high level of anxiety and things, they don't learn well. So you obviously need an environment where they're quite comfortable. Like there's a load of things you could do for that, but the real key thing is you've got to create an environment where people are not scared to fail and to try stuff. That's the key thing. Because you'll go to a lot of gyms and it will be basically if you're trying to win every round. We've talked about this before. And people are just petrified of losing and looking stupid and all this kind of shit. Okay? Obviously I take the piss out of people all the time, but I do it in kind of a comedy way and I'm not kind of mocking people for trying stuff. The reinterpretation of failure, that's the key thing we talked about before with the ecological approach. You've got to be, if you're trying to improve, like I said before, if you're looking good in training and you're doing stuff and it's working 100% of the time, you're not really developing, you're not really learning. So you've got to kind of get it through to people right from day one that they're going to have to fail, they're going to be getting shit wrong and other stuff isn't going to be working. Because again, people assume that if that's the case, it's a bad thing. But again, the failure and this kind of not getting stuff right, that's really important for the learning and stuff. Okay, if when I set tasks and I set kind of the constraints and get people working, if people are getting it right 100% of the time and they're having no issues, then I've kind of messed up with it. Like it's on me. Okay, so I would then have to kind of change the difficulty of it. But it's getting through to people that at the beginning that it's not a case of trying to win everything, and you've got to kind of push yourself to like a challenge point where you're going to fail, because that's where you're going to get that kind of growth. Okay, so if people come in and they're trying to win everything and they're basically going into positions where they know they can win everything because they're comfortable there is going to be no growth. It's like people who have like an A game that they're good at and that's all they do in training, and they never get well rounded and they have massive holes in their game, but they never work those holes in the game. Okay, but the key thing with this is getting through to the students that you have to kind of accept that you're going to fail, and if you're not failing and you're getting it right, if I can't or the coach can't see it and kind of change things, you've got to kind of take ownership of that, and you've got to kind of change the constraints and make it harder for yourself, like taking kind of ownership of your own training. Like one of the other things behind it, so I've been doing like kind of pressure passing this week, and like basically using kind of tripod passing. Now, at the beginning, it's really difficult for people because you're basically tripoding, your hips are up to a high centre of gravity, and people are getting rolls and knocked over and finding it really, really difficult. The problem is if they don't understand the failure is okay, what happens is they'll try it a few times, it won't work, and then they'll just ignore that, and they won't use that anymore. And there's other ways of kind of passing, like if we look at like half guard, for instance, with the tripod passing, there's other ways of passing which you, at the beginning, you're going to have success with sooner than like the tripod passing. But the problem is that kind of hits a ceiling, and those sort of things won't work at the high level. So you maybe get those to work then, and it gets the low level people, but if you keep just sticking with that technique, because it was the easiest one at the beginning, you hit that ceiling and you won't be able to get to a high level. Whereas with the tripod passing, for instance, you're going to have quite a high rate of failure at the beginning, but the ceiling's so much higher. When you get good at it and you can distribute the weight properly, you're going to be able to pass a league or black belt. So it's like with that, when I was teaching this week, it's just making sure when people are failing a lot with it, it's just making sure they realise that it's okay. Because again, when you start to raise the hips and you start to tripod, people aren't used to that kind of position at the beginning. So their balance is a bit crap. So they're going to get rolled, they're going to get knocked over. So it's just reassuring them that that's part of the process of learning it. And it's not a case of because you can't get it to work in the first session, you just disregard it and you go and do something a little bit easier. Okay, that's really kind of important, but there's loads of other kind of examples with that. For instance, like the Americana is quite easy to get at the beginning. You get the Americana and it's low level people, and it's one of the first submissions people pick up and they can make it work. Doesn't really work past purple belt. Like, you don't see Americanas and black belt level. Like, I'm yet to be given a video by anybody that's an elite level fight that's finished with Americana. Every time I kind of mention it, I challenge people with it, and no one's ever sent me an elite level fight that has an Americana finish. But you probably have quite a lot of success with that at the beginning. But again, it hits this ceiling. Whereas other stuff like, especially things like setting up arm bars and stuff from other positions, it's a little bit harder than Americana. But the arm bar has a higher ceiling. So you've got to kind of accept that early failure to kind of progress and improve with that.
That's important, as in you new people coming in, you've got to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Else they'll just leave, won't they?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You need that kind of environment anyway where people want to be there.
Yeah.
But as I say, that environment has to be a place where they feel safe and comfortable to fail. And they don't feel they're going to get judged and people are going to make fun of them, which, again, obviously I do, like I say, but it's usually just...
I think with adults might be look quite like easy to explain. It's hard for
with
kids.
Yeah,
because every match is a competition. It's like, I'm not going to give you biscuit for winning these rounds, you know?
I think that'll be... I don't teach kids, I think kids like teach.
My kids are
and I think for the kids, I think that's going to be a lot harder to get through to them. Because they may not have that kind of maturity and understanding to understand.
It might be a good thing in later, might be a bad thing in later.
But so the issue as well with the kids, like the next thing is about the motivation. So you've got to be careful with the amount of kind of failure as well, because if the failure rate's too high, the motivation drops, and then they're not enjoying it. They don't want to keep doing it. So you have to you may have to tweak things to make them succeed a little bit more sometimes.
I think that's the biggest thing with BJJ. It's probably the hardest thing to learn, so it's got the biggest drop off. You know, because you haven't got that in place. You come in. When I first started, you come in and it's like, right, we're learning. God, whatever, De La Riva when you first start, it's like too much, innit?
This is why I now do I do like a beginner's course.
Yeah.
Because the amount of time, especially at Mill Hill, when we didn't really have a beginner's course, you'd see someone come in day one and you're doing like De La Riva and like Berimbolo and version back takes and stuff. And you can't do that at the beginning. You've got no idea.
That's how you used to.
And again, they come in and they go, what the hell is this? Like, it's got no relevance to fighting, really, apart from like sport jiu-jitsu. So you have to kind of, I think with beginners, I think you have to have like almost like a set plan of how to kind of integrate them into it. But as I say, it's getting them to kind of like, with IOG now, like the environment, the atmosphere is like probably the best thing you have, I think.
So do you have a timetable for your new people? Say I come to you and said, oh right, can I come and try a session and I haven't done anything before, what would you do?
Well, if they've never done it, I try and get them to hold off a little bit until I run another kind of course, so I can integrate them in that way. Some people have just kind of turned up and I'll try and put the thing else, but you'll know from my teaching class, like there's so many the levels between your kind of students. Someone who's like a black belt.
Stuff,
if you've got a black belt, a few purple belts, and like a decent one, and you've got some brand new person, like it's hard to make that class work for everybody. So you can't. You can't completely bring the level down and reduce the complexity.
So the black belt's going to be pissed off, isn't it?
Yeah, well this is the thing. This is why you need people to kind of have this kind of ownership of their training and this kind of autonomy.
That goes back to that, doesn't it?
That's I said this before, like one of my, when it comes to like grading, so purple belt, I only have one real kind of concrete requirement for purple belt. Obviously that is subjective whether they think they're good enough or not, but like they need to be studying and looking for stuff themselves. If they're just doing what they do in class and what they're told to do, like I work with your people. They need to kind of be working on their own game and like taking a bit of kind of ownership of the training and finding things themselves and kind of studying stuff. That's I won't promote them. Because I think once you get to those higher levels, if you're not kind of self-motivated, you're not prepared to kind of take ownership of the training.
Yeah, you should be at that level anyway.
Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
Because you get to a point where like everyone diverges off into different kind of games and they have different levels and everything, and it's hard to kind of teach everyone the same thing a lot of the time. So they have to kind of have that understanding that they're going to have to work on their own game and actually do a lot of the work themselves with it and kind of go that way and not expect the coach just to give them everything. Like again, we spoke about this before. Like I don't see if the coach is that one source of knowledge that everyone just comes to. I don't think that works anymore. I think the coach is more about facilitating, creating the environment, setting the constraints and stuff. Like this idea of kind of knowledge and technical knowledge, like nowadays with all the DVDs and stuff and the instructionals that are out there, like knowledge is everyone has access to knowledge.
Well, that's the thing, it's a gym of clones, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want everyone in the gym with one style. You want that
No,
mixture.
I mean, they shouldn't do anyway because they all have different kind of action capabilities, body types, and everything. So if everyone's trying to do the same stuff and like you've messed up somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't all be doing the same stuff. If I taught all the stuff that works for me and that I do, if I just taught that, it would work for like a very small percentage of people. Like that's the thing. So they have to kind of, especially with the ecological process, the nice thing about that is that you give them the opportunity to explore and find things that work for them, as opposed to going, this is what I want you to do, this is how you're going to do it. Because again, that's kind of one solution which may suit a few people, but there's no perfect way of doing things. It's about giving them a platform and giving them an environment where they feel that they can explore and play about and find what works for them and their action abilities, their body type, all that kind of stuff, okay? I'll move on quickly with it. Yeah, mentorship. I'm not going to go into this in much detail, but this is something I'm kind of playing about with. I have kind of an unofficial kind of loose mentorship system where I have the higher grades and the more experienced people almost like mentoring the lower grades, like especially the brand new people, the white belts that come in. I will assign one of the higher grades to that white belt. So they have this, it's not just everyone comes to me. So they have a higher grade that they can kind of go to. And then what happens with the high grade as well is they kind of take a bit of responsibility for the new guy. And then they start to coach and guide and try and develop the new person. So what it does, it gives the beginner like someone to kind of work with that is the head coach and someone kind of form a relationship with. But it also gives the colour belt, the high grade, this opportunity to start to learn how to teach and to coach and to develop their skills on that side of things as well. I'm still playing about with how to implement it. That's the thing.
Got some people here who do it naturally.
Well, so this is something I think naturally happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes a lot of the kind of mentor things that I've set up already they organically happen.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it, whereas some aren't. And again, it's that this will come down to you starting to understand what the personalities and kind of the traits of your higher grades.
Yeah, you've got some people who never do it.
Yeah, there's certain people that I wouldn't match. Because I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I got like, I always, obviously there is some dicks, I always say, don't be a dick. As soon as you go in with somebody who's not your level, you show him. Don't just lay on him and make him suffer. You show him how to get out, let him build up and just keep showing him the right things to do.
That's the thing. Again, then what happens then as well is that you have, not everything comes from like the head coach. You have the higher grades then starting to teach as well and distribute that kind of knowledge as well. I know like there's certain coaches and teachers that I've heard stories about where they won't let anyone show anything or teach anything or help anything basically. In fact, the guy at Mill Hill, who's taken over Mill Hill now, he's like told the higher grades off for showing stuff to people.
That's proper ego.
And he literally came out with the phrase, I'm the instructor.
That's stupid, isn't
So I'm not allowed to say that anymore.
I got guy who's watching every day YouTube and coming in the gym and show.
Yeah, no, this is what I want. Yeah, this is what I want. This is the point. Like, as like a head coach or a head instructor, you don't know everything. In fact, to be honest, like most of us, like, I don't think I know much at all. To be honest anymore, because again, it develops so quickly. And
you
I
do that a
naturally,
lot though, like we've done seminars and you say,
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
you show it because you show it better. or
yeah.
something, do you know
Look,
what I mean?
if I go around and someone shows me something I've not seen before, I think it's quite good. I mean, that's good. Right, everyone come in and just show that.
Yeah,
Like, because I talk about this a little bit later on as well. What that does as well, it gives people it allows them to start teaching. They feel kind of comfortable giving feedback and giving information to people as well.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes them feel a little part of it.
Yeah.
So I always try and do that. And as well, if someone showed me something and I want everyone to see it, I'm not going to show it and take credit for it. Like, fuck that. I'm not John Danaher. Everyone knows Danaher basically all Danaher students come up with this stuff and then Danaher takes ownership of it. Everyone knows Eddie Cummings came up with the Lego system and then John Danaher basically just took it off him. Anyway, we'll move on quickly with it. Okay, so this is interaction feedback. So the feedback thing's really important. This is something that, so people are going to feel comfortable failing. People are also going to feel comfortable offering and receiving feedback as well. Like even white belts. Like so if we look at something like, I always start with like chokes, strangulations, cranks, like a DARS choke for instance. I can watch someone apply it and it can look really, really good. It can look like it's on, it's doing what it's supposed to do. But I don't really know because I'm not the one feeling that strangulation, that choke or whatever. The person that is receiving it or being attacked has information that can help the person that's supplying the choke or the strangulation or the crank that I don't have. This could be like a day one white belt. They can tell, they will be able to tell whether it's strangulation, whether it's on the arteries, whether it's on the trachea, or whether it's cranking the shit out of the neck. So it's important that they feel that they can give that feedback. Now, the issue you have is this kind of, I hate the hierarchy of belts anyway, but lower grades won't want to give feedback or suggestions or advice to higher grades. And in like a circumstance like attacking the neck, that lower grade has information that can help the higher grade. Because they know if the pressure was on the neck, like the trachea, whether it was on the arteries, whether it was cranking. So that information, the only person that has that is the white belt. And it could be a black belt applying it. But most white belts aren't going to be confident enough to give that feedback to the black belt, even though it potentially helps the black belt. So this is something I'm really kind of hot on with my guys. It's getting people, like I try and get people talking after every round anyway, and giving each other feedback and stuff. And certain people, like, it's okay at my place now, but like places I've been before, some people won't take feedback well. So they'll take it as like a personal insult, even though the person's trying to help them by giving them constructive feedback. They'll get really annoyed and again, there will be the whole, well, I'm a higher grade than you can't tell me anything kind of thing. So it's creating that environment where every person from white belt to black belt feels that they can comfortably offer feedback and offer information to each other without this kind of, people pulling rank, ridiculing them for being a white belt and not knowing anything and not being able to show them stuff. Like, that's really, really important. Because again, I've learned so much stuff off lower grades. I've learned stuff off white belts, but I only learned it because they've told me. Now, if they didn't tell me, I don't know. The other thing as well, like, they have a completely different perspective. Like, if someone comes in a day with white belt, they don't think about things in jiu-jitsu terms. So they have a very different perspective. Like, especially like if you have a wrestler or a judoka come in, like they look at it through a different lens, so they can see things differently to what I can. So it's really, really important to get across to everybody that you should try and provide this kind of feedback information. But you have to make sure that giving the information is one thing, but people have to be comfortable receiving that information as well. So your higher grades, like if they're pulling rank on people who are trying to help them because they feel that they're better than them and this person's a lower grade, this isn't going to work. Okay? And the other thing you're going to get is, like, I always try and ask people for kind of feedback in the group and things, and try to get people to talk and speak out and stuff. People don't want to say anything because they're scared that everyone's going to take the piss out of them and ridicule them and stuff.
That's the stupid question.
Yeah, absolutely.
They think stupid, but it might not
absolutely.
Be stupid,
but if they've got a question, a lot of the time, like, a lot of people have the same question, but no one's prepared to say it. So as a coach, you've got to find ways of trying to give them that kind of safety and confidence to to provide this information, provide this feedback, without people kind of ridiculing them. Because it's so hard at the beginning with a lot of people to get them to communicate and to talk.
Yeah.
And again, this feedback, giving this feedback, receiving this feedback is so important to improving. Because as I say, your training partner has information that can really help you improve. And it's information that I don't know. Like, I see it third person, but I can't feel what's happening.
Yeah, because you've got no idea.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what grade I am, how long I've been training, how great a coach I am. Like, I don't have access to that information that potentially that day one white belt does. So they can provide information that can help you that I can't provide.
I suppose it goes back to, like you were saying last the other week, where every situation is different anyway. So you might teach you this and it might be slightly different.
Yeah,
but you can't see
that's it.
Different.
Yeah, the conditions are always different. There's no perfect technique. Like your techniques can look the same, but they're going to be, the conditions are never going to be the same.
It's why it's always good to mix people up, because you'll find that they'll always go with the same person everywhere. So make a conscious effort to change who they're training with in the class.
Yeah, we come down to here. So the other thing as well, so with obviously the belt hierarchy, that identifying and specifying feedback. So like with a white belt, like a black belt, brown belt, they're going to know what information's good, what feedback is good, and what's going to help. At the beginning, a white belt's not going to know what information or feedback is going to help. So it's kind of specifying to the white belts that with something like a strangulation or a choke, the feedback is, where did you feel on the neck? So for instance, like off balancing as well, if you felt there was space or you could off balance somebody, like you may need to explicitly say to the lower grade that this is the kind of information that's going to be helpful, because they know nothing, they don't have the experience to know what's good and what's bad feedback and what's kind of, what's going to be good specifying feedback. The higher grades should know, because they should have an idea of what information is useful. So that's something that you've got to, so you've almost got to kind of teach the lower grades as well. What information is good, what information is bad, what information you need to pay attention to, what information can you give to someone that's going to help them. Like that's something that you're going to have to kind of work with those guys, okay? The partner switching, like this is something I do all the time. Because firstly, I want people to have a lot of variability in training partners. So if you just train with one person, you get very good at applying techniques to that one person. And I've had it before where I still have a couple of people that I do privates with that don't do classes, and they just train with me. And it pisses me off because I can't tell if they're improving either. They roll really well with me. And like I have these like white belts and blue belts that roll really well with me and have good rounds with them. And then like, if they came to a class one day, then I watched them just get destroyed by another white belt. And it's like, because they're so used to my movement and they're kind of attuned to my movement and how I do things. But everyone is so different.
Goes back to that when we were talking to you about teaching privates and just rolling.
Yeah, honestly, I have two now that do it.
Yeah.
But everyone else, I've tried to explain to them. At my own financial cost, I'm like, just do less privates. So pay me less money and go to a class because you will improve faster.
Yeah.
But it's kind of getting that across to them.
It's hard because I've got a lad who doesn't like it. He won't do the class. He don't like. He's got anxiety issues.
Yes, this is.
He had to roll with Andy the other day, so I was pleased about that. But
you're gonna have individual.
It's very difficult to me to judge what levels he's on.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I almost like I've misjudged students before because I'm so used to rolling with them.
Yeah.
And they roll really well with me.
Yeah.
And like,
I
guess it's around how experienced they are or whatever. Like I'm kind of fooled into thinking they're doing really well because they roll really well with me.
Yeah.
And then I watch them roll with someone else. It's like shit. They're really struggling with this white belt because I'm kind of like I believe how well they're doing is how well they're with me. So you need that variability because again you're not going to fight the same person every time. Like everyone you fight is going to be different. So like we're saying about every technique, like there's no exact replication of technique. Like a knee slice, for instance, the application of that knee slice is going to be slightly different every time, but it's also going to be different with different body types and different skill levels and different kind of action capabilities and strength and athleticism, all this kind of stuff. So if you don't give them that variability in training partner, you could end up with people who are just really good rolling one person, but actually if they got into a fight in the street, they might struggle. Against a completely untrained person, they may struggle because they're only used to fighting someone of a certain body type. So That's really, really important. What I found as well with this, which was kind of a knock-on effect I didn't think about at the time, is like, you get people who just sit in pairs and little groups and things. So you end up getting like little groups and little pockets.
Quite clicky then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, you get clicks. I don't have any clicks at IOG. Like, it's a big group. Like, there's no little groups of little clicks. And I think this is one of the reasons. Because everyone trains with everyone. And everyone then is forced to form a relationship with everybody. Do you see what I mean? There's some people like, at Mill Hill, like, over like a 2 or 3 year period, like, there could be 2 or 3 people in a class that have never spoken to each other. But they've shared the map like for 100 sessions.
That goes back to that
And
atmosphere
they've never had a
as well, doesn't it?
conversation. Yeah,
it's like
they've never had a conversation. Whereas this, there is a functional reason for doing the partner switching because of the variability, but it also forces people to create relationships with everybody. So you get a bigger, like more kind of close-knit community. And again, it stops this kind of cliquey kind of in-group, out-group thing, which like I've seen ruin so many clubs as well. So like that, as I say, that partner switching thing I think is important on several kind of levels.
Plus it helps you new people feel a bit more involved, doesn't it? If you're just letting them just train together.
Absolutely.
All the new people.
Every single higher grade they roll with, they get a new bit of information.
And I know there's always that dickhead in the class, isn't there? Someone gets a partner in, and you can just see, oh fucking hell.
It's all right.
Who is that?
Glenn's not here.
So then it gives them an opportunity then, doesn't it? Because
No, mate, just shut that.
we got quite hard before.
Well, that's it. But as well, like
No
how many
kidding.
times?
We'll be filling them
How
in,
many
mate.
times have you gone and done a session and you've been doing technical stuff for like 45 minutes and 50 minutes with someone who's a really shit training partner?
Yeah, lots of times.
And it ruins the session for you.
yeah.
Kind of, yeah, but
But it's hard. It's hard. You don't get a really kind of functional session out of it. Like some people are just crap training partners, and again, this is, you have to try and teach people how to be good training partners. And some people really struggle with it, and you need to kind of spread it around. I've seen it before as well, and as well if you've got someone who's brand new, like you don't want someone having to do, because you need everyone to try and make improvements in that session. Now you've got some like a quite a good level guy, and they've got to spend 45 minutes to an hour doing all their work with a brand new person. Like they're not really pushing and developing their own game.
Especially if you've got a comp coming up as well.
Yeah,
Feeling
this
that
is the
they
thing.
need to be trained out.
So it just kind of spreads it out, and it gives everyone a lot more variability, and again, it helps form the relationships. But as well, when you've got a Glenn in the class, it spreads the responsibility of the Glenn. Because Glenn's going to ruin everyone's training, but only a little bit. Yeah, that's the thing. But it's identified who this person is.
Yeah.
Like,
we got the, in my gym, we've got like clicking, we got like 5-6 Romanian friends coming, and they start like, they always in the corner in their own gang, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously when my job is to bring them, train with everyone instead of being together.
When that starts to happen though, when that little group starts to form and they start to split off, it's really hard to bring them back into the
Yeah. But when you can see, and now they all talking with each other, they're getting
that's it. That's the key thing.
That's the community what I like.
Like that's what's really important. I don't think a lot of clubs do that. They just kind of let these little groups form,
But we've got
and it ends up being really divisive as well.
Yeah.
we've got loads of kids from different cultures here, and they're all integrated.
Yeah.
And the families talking
Perfect.
and stuff. It's good.
Yeah, that it's about.
I think kids are better at doing it than adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just naturally do it, don't they? They're
But
naturally
it's finding ways to kind of like, a lot of the time that will naturally happen, but not all the time. So it's finding ways in the training that's going to almost kind of facilitate these kind of relationships, to create that kind of environment that's going to make people, enjoy being there, and it's going to help people kind of improve and train as well. Yeah, our use of Selfreport as well. This is something I do. You're on the official IOG WhatsApp, aren't you? After every major competition, I send out like a self-report sheet where I basically force everybody who's competed to fill this sheet in, and they kind of go over their own training, and they analyse their performance and how they felt on the day, all this kind of stuff.
It's like on a white paper, just write down.
Yeah, it's like a PDF. I send it to them, and they can print it out and write on it, or they could edit on the computer and send it back. But it basically involves what they thought went well, what they thought went bad, what they thought they could improve, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So it kind of gives me feedback on everything that kind of went on in that competition. But what it does as well, it forces people to think about the competition and to think about what they did. So even if I didn't read that self-report stuff, which I obviously do because I want to find as much as I can, even if I didn't read it, forcing them to do it makes them kind of think more about the competition and start to analyse their own performances, which comes back into this idea of taking ownership of the training.
Yeah,
So I kind of trick them into taking ownership of the training.
And it's give coach the information as well, what you think.
So important. So important. Like the self-report stuff, there's so many things that have been highlighted that I've missed. And like some of the self-reports come in, a couple of things crop up on multiple ones, and like, shit, how did I not see that?
Yeah, they're seeing
Right,
it.
we need to work on this, we need to do that.
They're seeing it in your not.
Yeah, like I miss stuff all the time.
Also, you're not always watching them, are you? Not all the time. Do you know what I mean?
It's right.
It's hard, isn't it?
Well, if you have like 20 people competing on the day, no. Like I watch the videos after, but as well, like this is me watching it third person, like I'm saying. I don't know what their anxiety levels were like. I don't know whether
it's easy to criticise and look at them when you're watching
the
video, but
absolutely.
if you was there when you Matt's side, you can see, you can get a vibe from someone whether they're.
It's like I was saying about the white belts giving feedback.
Yeah.
They have information that I don't have access to that can help me. Like the athlete has information that can help me improve them. I don't have access to it. I can only judge what I see. They can tell me if they had kind of nerves or anxiety coming into it, whether their preparation wasn't great, you know, whether something went wrong with the day, whether something happened in the match I didn't realise, or you know, whether they gassed, all this kind of stuff. So that information's like super, super important. So I get that from the self-report, but also it forces them to analyse their own performance.
Yeah.
And then they come out with stuff that they want to work on, and like whereas previously like, oh, what do I need to work on? It's like, you tell me what you need to work on. It's like, when they start to analyse their own performance, they then start to realise what their weaknesses are, and they work on the weaknesses without me telling them.
Yeah, it's not like they come in Monday and expecting me knowing what you fucking did wrong.
That's it. Absolutely.
I can send you a copy of it if you want.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important. The other thing with the self-report I do at the end of the year as well, I do like an end of year self-report, basically how they thought the training was over the year, their performance over the years. But I slip in little questions about who do you enjoy training with, like who do you feel you have really good sort of interactions with and you get the best training out of, and it's like, who do you not get the best training with?
Glenn.
This has highlighted certain relationships that I hadn't noticed, that there's a little bit of friction. I had no fucking idea. But I've managed to get that out of them by just slipping it into the self-report. Yeah. And then I'll come in and I'll watch sessions and it's really fucking obvious. But I didn't see it. But I managed to get that information out of them. So now I can do something about, like, because maybe I then, when they're switching partners, I do maybe try and keep these people away from each other. I do maybe find ways of making it work. So, and again, it's ways of extracting that information from people that I can't see and I don't know. Like, and as I say, that then helps the atmosphere, because if there's any friction,
then that can have a negative effect. It's just a positive effect of integrating it. But if two people
like
just don't get on and you're making them work together,
yeah,
you're going to think, I'm not fucking going because I have to work that pretty every day.
But it allows me to then it allows me then to try and keep that environment kind of good and productive when there's like potentially like this kind of toxic relationship that I hadn't noticed. So again, I use the self-report for that. I trick people into basically talking shit about each other, and then obviously I don't tell people. And it's all confidential.
Yeah.
But I found
just leave your notes accidentally on the side to wind everyone up.
But yeah, it allows me to take the piss out of people as well. We'll go through this, but this is really important. This is basically with respect to the coach and what I believe is useful in that kind of coaching role and the kind of the main kind of head instructor role. So people are going to copy you. People are going to do the sort of stuff you do. So again, when you roll, if you just kick the shit out of people and you don't work on your weaknesses, you never fail. 100% success rate, then they're going to try and do the same thing. So if you're trying to tell people to put themselves in bad positions and accept that kind of failure in order to grow, if the instructor rolls and then doesn't do that, like, you're saying one thing and then your behaviour is different. So you've got to train that way as well. Else they're not. It's not gonna kind of work. Like, as I say, you're saying something, but then you're behaving in a completely different way. Okay, I know some coaches, some instructors who pride themselves on that they've never been tapped in training. None of them are world champions. None of them are very good. Exactly. None of them are very good. But that's the thing. They're not really good because they never allow themselves to develop their weaknesses.
Yeah.
They hide their weaknesses. When they go into competition, those weaknesses come out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, the best people I know, constantly getting tapped in training, constantly in bad positions, because they're using those training sessions to actually train and develop. They're not using those training sessions to just kick the shit out of everyone and show how good they are. Like, that's what competition's for. When you do competition training as well, absolutely. But the bulk of your training is about acquiring new skills and developing. So you should be looking to develop and improve things. Now, if you just keep doing the same thing that works every time, it's not going to get any better. You may tap everybody and not be, people may not tap you, but you go to competition and you're not going to be all around it. So, as I said, as a coach, you need to kind of do that. You should be doing that anyway, because you should be wanting to get better.
I try to explain, like, I put myself in a bad positions.
Yep.
But I always try to explain, I'm not gonna, like, because you put on and it's on, I say, I'm not gonna tap it. It's like, I will tap it when it's proper on,
Yeah.
and you know you got me.
Yeah,
Instead
exactly,
of just,
exactly.
I'll make you feel better, yeah?
But you, as I say, you should be. If you're never getting tapped, you find it too easy. You've got to make it harder for yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got to put yourself in really fucking bad positions. So you're gonna get legitimately tapped. Because then, like, I spend a lot of time working on submission defences, so I allow myself to get into really, really deep submissions. And like, I'm working on late stage submission defence, I'm going to get tapped a lot. If I'm working on armbar defence, I'm going to get armbarred a lot. But I don't get tapped very often in competition because of that. Like, my submission defence is one of my main attributes. I get submitted in training all the time. But that's why I don't get submitted in competition. Because if I get caught in a really late stage armbar in competition, I've been there thousands of times anyway. Because I've allowed myself to in training. Now you get someone who refuses to tap, refuses to get put in bad positions, they get put in a bad position in comp, they get put in a really late stage armbar, they don't have much experience in that position. That's so important. Like, I'm happy to get tapped in training, I don't want to get fucking tapped in competition. Like, no way do I want to get tapped in competition. And the only way that's going to happen is if I allow myself to be put in bad positions and experience bad positions to get tapped in training. So that's super, super important.
Well, you create an environment, aren't you? Like you said before, if you're creating an environment where you say it's okay to get tapped here, and people see the coach getting tapped, it's like, oh, well,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, oh, he tapped,
but if the coach doesn't get tapped, everyone's going to try and replicate that.
So you don't think you should just smash fuck out your beginners all the time?
It depends what you're trying to get them to work on.
Form in the play.
So sometimes yes, sometimes no. It literally depends what you feel you're trying to get out of that role with that beginner.
Yeah.
What's your kind of your goal or aim for that role? Acknowledge mistakes and fallibility. Like, if I make a mistake, I've done it many times. I've made mistakes in coaching and training. I will always try and highlight my mistake and tell people that I made a mistake, and I'll come back and I'll correct my mistake, but I'll be very clear that I made a mistake and I'll correct it. Because again, I want people to see that it's okay again to fuck up, and like even the coaches fuck up. Like, nobody knows everything, and as I say, I learn stuff of people all the time because I don't have that mentality.
It's about being humble, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's basically what that is.
Personality as well.
Yeah. So you show like, sometimes you show the technique, and you just go like, let everybody drill, and then you go doing yourself. Oh, fuck, I forget to show this detail.
That's
and I just go in the middle and it's like, fuck, I forget to tell you that.
Absolutely,
detail.
it's happened to me loads of times since I've been teaching.
But
I'll always remain like, okay, stop. I fucked up, guys, come in.
Yeah.
So I'm wrong. This is how you do it. Or someone will show me a better way of doing it, and I'll be like, okay, guys, what I just showed you, like, this person's got a better way of doing it. Come in, let's just do this, and then I get them to teach it if they've got what I think is a better way. So again, I show that people know more than me sometimes, and I show that I fuck up sometimes. Again, just to kind of get people in that kind of environment where they feel that if the coach fucks up, then it's okay. If you're white, you fuck up. So that's really important. Catch people being good is another thing. Like when I kind of give feedback to people and I kind of like try to give advice, I'm always, if somebody does something good, I'm always trying to catch that. I'm always trying to compliment that. More so than like, there's certain people that like they do a lot of stuff wrong, and if you're constantly highlighting the mistakes, it becomes really negative and really demotivating. So if they do something good, you've got to give them just as much attention as when they do something bad, kind of thing. That's really important. Encourage being challenged on everything. This is the thing. My guys constantly challenge me about everything. If they think I'm wrong, they'll fucking tell me they think I'm wrong. And I have to justify it. If I can't justify it, then maybe I fucking am. That's the thing. So people have challenged me on stuff and come up with another way, and I'm like, shit, actually, yeah, I think that there's a better way. So, but people have to be confident that they can challenge you. Because a lot of people won't want to challenge a black belt, because they're a black belt, they can't be wrong. Like, they fucking can be wrong. And they can be challenged and proved wrong by a white belt. So you have to be really, if somebody challenges you, don't just shoot them down and go, no, you're fucking wrong, just do it this way.
Well, it's stupid, isn't it?
Like, you know, encourage that challenging, because again, I've learned so much from people challenging me, and they've basically challenged me and looked at it from a different perspective that I hadn't seen. Now, if I'd just gone, no, just shut up and just fucking get on with it, I'm a black belt, then I would have improved with that as well. So that's important. And again, it's about people being...
Yeah, but even if you are right, it's good to explain why you're right to that person.
Obviously, I'm always right, but I pretend I'm right.
I know that, yeah. You pretend you're wrong just to be a good coach.
Yeah. No. Well, that's the thing. But again, you've got to accept it. If somebody questions you and kind of... There's a good way and a bad way of doing it. Like, some people will try and trick you up to just being a dick. But like, if that's the case, that's probably because the environment, the atmosphere you've created is shit. Like, my guys call me out all the time and stuff, but I know they're not trying to trip me up. And if they are, they're trying to do it to be funny, which is cool. So I don't mind that kind of shit. They're not trying to be like malicious or anything with it. As I say, if you've got people doing that, then that's probably something to do with the environment you've created on the mat. If you've got people behaving that way. But as I say, like, most of my guys, like, especially all the colour belts, they have no fear about challenging me about anything. If they think I'm wrong, they will challenge me. If I think I'm right, I'll then try and explain it to them. But if they challenge me and I think I might be wrong, then again I have to accept that, and I have to kind of acknowledge that. Yeah.
You go home and whip yourself afterwards.
No.
There always can be a couple ways to be right. Yeah, it's always not like just.
This is the point. There's not just one way of doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Everything's possible. It's situations.
Autonomy supported coaching. That's basically like what I was saying before about getting people to take ownership of their training and to start to really take kind of interest in their own game and what works for them, as opposed to just receiving information from the coach and doing exactly what you're told to do. It shouldn't be the only person talking. You've all given feedback, you're all talking back and forth with me. That's the way it should be. If we'd come in here and it's 45 minutes and you go in fucking silence and me just talking at you, then this is a waste of time. So, because that kind of feedback and the bouncing back and forth is really important. So if you're coaching and you're the only person talking, then you're fucked up. Like, everyone should be talking, communicating, offering feedback and going from there. If you've got a fucking silent training room, that's a bad sign in my opinion. Like, I will kind of set something going and set like a constraint-based exercise going. Everyone will do it, and then the timer will go, and then everyone starts talking, and I'm just kind of sat there like, okay, great. They're all talking and showing each other stuff, and I'm like, all right, fine. And I'll wait until everyone's kind of finished. It'll be 2 or 3 minutes sometimes. But they're all giving feedback and talking about what they just did and everything, and I'm like kind of surplus to quiet. It's like, fuck it. But it's setting that task that's going to give them that kind of information, and then it's having them in a position where they feel they can talk and give that information. Again, been to gyms before where you can't fucking talk.
I don't fit with.
You shut up and you do the technique. Like, it's a terrible environment. It's not fun, firstly. It's not comfortable. And again, there's so much information you're missing because you won't let the students talk.
A bit of the old school, traditional Japanese martial arts style.
Which I don't think is the most efficient way.
But it's old, isn't it? It's old.
Yeah, we kind of have an idea of better ways of doing it, or alternative ways of doing it. Things progress, like I say. If you're teaching the same way you were teaching 10 years ago, that's basically tells me you've not improved as a coach. Like, that's the thing. You guys have been training for like 9 years now, something like that, a long time. Yeah. How much has my training teaching style changed over 9 years? Yeah. Almost on a yearly basis. It's because I figured out better ways of doing stuff, or someone showed me a better way of doing something. So like, I've progressed. I don't think I teach anything the same way as I taught 10 years ago.
But someone's spoiled one of my strength and conditioning coaches is really high level. He was saying, on the strength and conditioning industry, I don't know whether it's transferable to this, but 50% of stuff they're doing is wrong, 50% are doing right, but they don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And in 10 years it will know.
You know what? One of the ways you figure out what's right is by doing it wrong.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So this is why I don't do passive drilling anymore, because I've done it. I know it's wrong now, and I have a good idea why it doesn't work now. But I've taught that way, so I've got a lot of experience teaching in that style. So it's not like I'm just going, that's bullshit, and I've never done it before. But I've taught for fucking years.
You've got one
I've
all
taught,
that.
I learned that way. I've taught that way.
Do you find it hard now not doing that drilling? Do you still find it hard changing?
I'm relatively comfortable
without any
without any resistance.
Yeah. That's more like a warm up for me.
Yeah, nearly everything I do now, I'll try and make it live, because as I say, applying a technique to someone who's not resisting it doesn't transfer to what you're trying to do. You learn to apply the technique to someone not resisting. When the person resists, it's a different technique. It's a completely different thing. So you basically all it means is like my guys just do a lot more jiu-jitsu, because passive drilling isn't jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is resistance and life. Like my guys just do a shit ton more of that. So they've got more experience of actually doing jiu-jitsu.
So how about the resistance? Because it's very hard to explain people what is the reasonable.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, again, this is something else you've got to. I mean, obviously it's the environmental stuff today, but when we look at like planning lessons and do that kind of stuff, that's something that you've got to talk about with guys. Most of the time, I say with my guys, the majority of the training is 50-60% kind of resistance. 100% is too much. 0% is too little.
So you
then
you can't be dead.
Each person's interpretation of what percentage is what and what intensity is what is different. So you tell them like, oh, you're going too hard on it, and they become too long, and then
that's the thing. Like, there's so much variability between people.
Like, your idea of 30%.
And then some of the newer guys, they become pissed off because they're like, oh, I'm fighting too much, I'm going to be dead. And then you're like, oh, you're too dead, and then they're too defensive.
But then again, that interaction and that comes down to the environment again. Yeah. Like, if you've got that bickering and you're going too hard, your environment's fucked. So you've got to be, because if you're offering feedback there, you say you go too hard. So you're giving good feedback to that person. Now, if they have a problem with it, they're not receiving the feedback properly. So again, it comes down to them understanding that they can give feedback, and no one should be offended by it.
And it's going to take time to understand the
absolutely.
reason
People have
of
got to get used to that. Like when you offer feedback, like some people, when you offer them feedback, you can see straight away they kind of bristle, and they're like, "Fuck off!" Like they see it as a personal insult. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to help. And now if that feedback's coming from a lower grade as well, they're like, how fucking dare you tell me?
This is where no gi's so good, isn't it? Because there's there's no belts on.
I think the belt hierarchy is one of the worst things about this, because it puts people on different levels, and people naturally feel that superiority.
You know who's awful in the room anyway, aren't you? Without the belts.
Yeah, again, athletes are individuals. This is the thing. Everyone's going to be different as well. You're going to learn what people are like, what their temper and their personalities are like as well, and like. Yeah, that's what this is all kind of down to. Like, people aren't the same as each other, they're not carbon copies of each other. So you've got to have that kind of flexibility between people and how you work with them. And like, some people are difficult, some people are not difficult. But the more you kind of work with them, the more you get an idea of what their personalities are like. And you may not have a personality clash with somebody, but one of your other coaches might not. That's the other thing. So you need all these other people helping as well, because you might struggle to coach somebody. You might just kind of mesh. So you need other relationships in the room so other people can help you. That's the thing. If it's all that information is coming from one source, if that student doesn't really get on with you, and you're that one source of information, they're not going to improve like everyone else. So it has to be this kind of community that you're kind of building. And
you just naturally have better relationships with other people, don't you? It's natural without even trying or thinking, and it's just.
But some people, some people you don't get on with. Like some people, other people get on with, but you just don't mesh with them. You don't kind of click. So that's life. Like
energies.
Energies. Yeah, like Glenn. No one gets on with Glenn. He's a dick. He's still knocking around, isn't he? You can't fucking get rid of him. So.
He said, but I think I'm alright. I get on alright with Glenn now.
Yeah,
but maybe
you're just nice.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when I'm on with him and stuff, I don't feel like.
In reality, like,
Tom, you get on with
everyone.
everyone.
Full same.
Tom gets on with everyone.
Brilliant.